In a quiet town, surrounded by dusty roads and unfinished dreams, lived a man named Ayaan. He was 30, educated, hardworking, and full of ideas yet. He was deeply, profoundly unhappy. Every morning, Ayaan woke up with the same heavy feeling in his chest, as if life itself had become a burden he was forced to carry. He believed the world was unfair, that luck only favored others, and that success was reserved for those born with privilege. You see, Ayaan had grown up hearing far more criticism than encouragement. His teachers often called him average. His relatives constantly compared him to his more successful cousins. Over time, those voices didn't just stay outside. They burrowed deep inside and became his own inner dialogue. Whenever he failed at something, he'd tell himself, "I knew it. I'm just not good enough." Whenever he saw someone else succeed, he'd think, "They're just lucky. I'll never be like that." He worked at a small printing shop, earning just enough to get by. He hated the job, but he truly believed he had no other choice. Every rejection letter, every mistake he made, every slow day at work only strengthened his conviction that life was actively working against him. He walked with his head down, spoke with hesitation, and dreamed without any hope. What Ayaan didn't realize was that his biggest enemy wasn't his situation, it was his own thinking. One rainy evening, after another exhausting day, Ayaan sat alone in a roadside tea stall. His mind was replaying every failure of his life like a broken record, a constant loop of disappointment. As he stared blankly into his untouched cup of tea, an elderly man came and sat across from him. The man's eyes were calm, and his posture carried a quiet, unassuming confidence. "You look tired," the old man said gently. Ayaan sighed. "Life is tiring." The man smiled warmly. "No, thinking is tiring." That single sentence stayed with Ayaan long after the rain stopped that night. He didn't know it yet, but this brief encounter marked the beginning of a transformation that would change not only his life but his entire way of seeing the world. Over the next few days, Ayaan couldn't stop thinking about the old man's words. Thinking is tiring. He started to realize just how much of his time, his energy, was spent imagining worst-case scenarios, replaying past failures, and predicting negative outcomes before he even tried anything. One evening, while cleaning up the shop, Ayaan found a damaged book someone had left behind. Its cover read, "Your thoughts shape your reality." Normally, he would have tossed it aside, but something compelled him to open it. The book spoke about positive thinking not as blind, naive optimism, but as a disciplined belief. It explained that 我们的思想会影响我们的情绪，我们的情绪会引导我们的行动，而我们的行动会创造我们的结果. Ayaan felt as if the book was describing his entire life, but in reverse. For the very first time, he questioned a powerful idea that had held him captive for so long. What if my life is unbad because I am unlucky but because I expect it to be bad? He decided to test this radical idea not with grand life-altering dreams, but with small, manageable changes. The very next morning, instead of his usual complaint about waking up, Ayaan told himself, "Today, I will do my best, no matter what." It felt strange. It felt fake, almost uncomfortable, but he repeated it anyway. Later at work, when a customer criticized a small mistake, Ayaan fought his usual urge for self-blame. Instead, he thought, mistakes help me improve. When business was slow, instead of sinking into worry, he used the time to organize the shop and even suggested a few new ideas to his boss. The changes were small, but they were incredibly powerful. Days turned into weeks. Ayaan began noticing something unusual. His confidence was slowly growing. He started speaking more clearly, with less hesitation. He found himself smiling more often. And as he changed, people started responding differently to him. Customers began to trust him more. His boss took notice of his renewed effort and initiative. But the real test came when Ayaan decided to apply for a better job, something he had avoided for years out of a paralyzing fear of rejection. The doubt crept in immediately. What if I fail again? But then, a new thought followed, like a quiet whisper. But what if I succeed? This time, he chose to listen to the second thought. He prepared for the interview with genuine sincerity, believing that he deserved the opportunity. During the interview, he spoke honestly, not as a desperate man looking for a way out, but as someone who believed in his own potential. He didn't get that job. But instead of feeling crushed, Ayaan told himself, "This is progress." I faced my fear. That one shift in mindset changed everything. Over the following months, Ayaan kept practicing positive thinking, not by ignoring problems, but by facing them with belief instead of fear. When challenges appeared, he started asking himself, "What can I learn from this?" Instead of his old question, "Why does this always happen to me?" 1 year later, Ayaan stood in a place he once believed was completely impossible for him to reach. He had started his own small design business. It wasn't perfect, and it was far from easy, but it was his. More importantly, he was no longer a prisoner of his own thoughts. One evening, as he walked past that same tea stall where he once sat hopeless and defeated, he saw the elderly man again. Ayaan smiled and walked over. "You were right," he said. "Thinking was the problem." The old man nodded, a knowing look in his eyes, and belief was the solution. Ayaan's life didn't become perfect. He still faced failures, slow days, and moments of doubt, but the difference was profound. His thinking no longer worked against him. It worked for him. He understood a powerful truth. Positive thinking doesn't mean pretending everything is good. It means believing that you have the strength and resilience to handle whatever comes your way. Ayaan began sharing his story with others, not as a guru or a teacher, but as living proof. He told them how negativity had silently controlled his life and how changing his thoughts had completely changed his direction. He learned that success always starts in the mind, long before it ever shows up in reality. When people asked him what was the secret that changed his life, he didn't talk about luck, money, or some hidden talent. He simply sighed, "I changed the way I speak to myself, because every thought you have is a seed. Negative thoughts grow weeds of fear and doubt. Positive thoughts grow gardens of courage and possibility." Ayaan's journey is a reminder to all of us that the power to change our lives begins with the power to change our thinking. No matter where you are, no matter how difficult your situation feels right now, your mind can become your greatest strength or your biggest weakness. The choice, ultimately, is yours. And the moment you choose positive thinking, your life begins to move in a new, more hopeful direction. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more content to help you on your journey.